Let's bring in our guy, Kyle Long. Yeah. Always good to see him, especially in person. Of course, he's been on the show before. CBS Sports HQ. You guys are crushing it, man.
Yeah, we're having fun. A lot of digital stuff, as you guys know, so it's free. You turn on your TV, and we're right there in the menu. You don't have to pay for anything. You just click on us. Mike Renner and I do Pushing the Pile. It's a lot of fun to get to talk ball. Wish I talked more Bears, but saw you guys here, and I jumped at the opportunity to come on and talk some ball.
Yeah, this is it. Let's talk some Bears.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
Not tennis. Not tennis.
I'm waiting.
Okay.
Tennis on the back end. He's got to check out Kyle's Instagram. Dude's ripping balls. Forehand looks amazing. We'll get to that in a minute. Who on the offensive line can play?
Me?
Yeah. I mean, seriously, that's what Bears fans are going to think. Bring this guy back.
Well, look, I mean, at the end of the day, you want the 5 healthiest guys because continuity is important. We take a look at the Super Bowl this week, and the big matchup is going to be the interior of that defensive line for the Philadelphia Eagles going against the interior of the Chiefs' offensive line, which begs the question, do we move Tooney back inside to play in the big game because of the strengths of this Eagles team? And I say that's bullshit. Excuse my language.
We're good.
But we're going to keep the continuity going.
That would be a weird thing to do.
You need it would be weird. You need continuity. It's like you practice double teams all week. You practice pass protection next to a guy with a guy inside your right hip pocket, and then to change that up would be no good. So find a combination of guys that you're confident in the fact that they're not going to have soft tissue stuff week to week. They're not prone to have injury like myself or some other guys we've seen recently with Chicago. And I think you go draft a couple studs, man. I think you draft and develop some studs.
Well, I mean, every time we talk about offensive line continuity, I point to your guys' rookie year. You had Jermon Bushrod, Matt Slauson, Roberto Garza at center, and then 2 rookies on the right side, you and Jordan Mills. And you guys played every single game for 16 games. The Bears this season had the most offensive line combinations in football. So just getting to who they should actually start with. Everybody talks about Trey Smith. Obviously, we were talking to Trey Smith. But I'm curious about the center position. Do you think that they should draft a center and go through those growing pains, or try to find a veteran center to work with Caleb Williams?
Well, I really like, if you're going to go with a veteran center, I like the guy in Atlanta, Drew Dahlman, a lot. Mm-hmm. Really an ass kicker in the run game. He excels in the play-action pass game. And I heard Ben Johnson talking about how he's going to tailor-made this offense for Caleb Williams, and he's not going to copy-paste from Detroit. But you have to imagine a guy with that pedigree is going to enjoy running the football in early downs and get into those big gash play-action plays later in the series. And a guy like Drew Dahlman is really good in that scenario. I do think that the center is the keystone for an offense, not just in terms of the fact that they're in the middle of the offensive line, but they are literally the communicator, the director of the entire operation. So I think that's a hugely important position. I know we got a great building block at the right tackle position in Darnell Wright. You mentioned Trey Smith, who played with Darnell in college, and I remember I was with Trey, or Trey was in my phone book when we drafted Darnell Wright, so I texted Trey, what's the deal with this kid? And he was like, freak show. He's only going to get better. He's just a big ball of clay right now, and now we're a couple years down the road, and Darnell has gotten better. And I still stand by that pick. Even though Jalen Carter's in the Super Bowl, Darnell Wright will protect the number 1 pick.
So what are you most – obviously you saw a lot of the Lions this year. They made it pretty far. What are you most excited about Ben Johnson?
Well, I just think his ability to get guys open, his ability to get through to the quarterback and have him understand that there is a rhythm to an offense, there is a due date on throws, and if you're going to go past that expiration date, then you'll probably get hit. What we saw with Jared Goff was a guy who, when that back foot hit the ground, the ball was out. His timing was good, thus making the offense really good. We've got receivers, we've got guys that we can scheme open. Of that, I have no doubt. I just hope that we can have the same fortitude, the same gusto that offensive line in Detroit had, and the great pride that they had, no pun intended, in kicking people's ass up front.
So that part of it, I think the Bears O-line room, maybe you agree, is screaming for the ass-kicking leader, for a better, lack of a better way of saying it. Do you see that?
Yeah, I think we just got the guy from Tulane, right? We just got the O-line coach from Tulane.
Yeah.
Tulane, pretty good program down there. I don't know a ton about him, but O-line is based in who your leader is. And I don't know the previous regime's O-line coach very well, but I'm excited to meet this guy through watching his players on film. You can learn a lot about the teachings by what you see on tape. And at times last year and in years past, I saw a mismatch technique, which led to a disjointed operation. When all the guys are on the same page, like you alluded to, that 2013 offensive line, 5 guys who were under Aaron Cromer's tutelage. And I know he didn't come without his red flags as a coach, but one thing that was amazing was we were all going to use the same technique and we all had the same goal in mind.
And that's what continuity is all about, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be the most talented. It's chemistry, right? So, to me, going back to this culture thing, because like everybody, we understand Caleb, the offense, play calling. That's going to take them to the next level. But
by the way, Greg's got a goal this week to ask every single one of our guests about the culture.
That's right.
He's very concerned.
Important.
Well, because I'm excited about guys like Eric Bieniemy coming in,
Yep.
Antoine Randall, JT Barrett comes from
1000%.
Detroit, guys that were in that Detroit locker room. So I'm just curious from your standpoint, because I know you came in at a time where there were some dudes that had been there, done that, ended up in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious your standpoint on how this team can find a tougher culture to hold each other accountable.
Well, I was lucky enough to show up on the doorstep of Hallis Hall with, like you said, those leaders in the room, albeit in the back 9 of their career, probably on 17 or 18, 18th hole. I didn't have to formulate or generate any type of culture. I could just look to them, look to guys like Matt Forte and Matt Slauson and the leaders in the room and say, how can I follow that? They're going to need to do a great job from day one on establishing who the leaders are. The coaches will pretty much make it clear who the leaders are. The players will understand who the leaders are from day one, and you just follow that. You follow that suit. They have great guys that have brought into the building. You alluded to Antoine Randall and Eric Bieniemy. Eric Bieniemy is a no bullshit coach.
Yeah,
and he may not have been a great head coaching candidate or a coordinator, but I'll tell you one thing: like Mike Tomlin says, he runs to coaching. That's how EB does it, and I saw it in Kansas City, and the guys loved him in that room, albeit they were frustrated sometimes with him because he's been there and done that. He's not going to ask you to do anything he's never done as a player. So I think guys respect that. And the more people you can have in the building like that, the better for the Chicago Bears.
So when you describe him in that way, are you talking about him being like a yeller and a screamer, or just like extreme accountability all the time?
I close my eyes. If you were to say, what does EB say? And I just said, detail the details. Like the guy, like I could write down probably everything he's going to say every single day. But eventually it becomes your mantra. It becomes your MO. And I remember the way that he didn't skip over any details, albeit how small they ever were. He was going to cover them in the meeting. You were going to be frustrated with the fact that you're maybe wasting 2 minutes on something you've heard a million times. But I'll tell you what, when it comes time for that 2-minute operation to take the field and Patrick Mahomes is out there, it's not just Patrick making magic. It's the rest of the offense who's been through those meetings time and time again, who have been through those drills time and time again. Situational football is huge, and EB harps on it more than anybody.
Make it second nature. 100, Caleb's the guy. 1, he's going the way of Mitch Trubisky. Where are you on that pendulum?
I'm 100. I'm all in. I'm all in on Caleb, as I've been since the beginning. Obviously, there's a lot of things we got to clean up operationally, performance-wise from him. But the proof is in the pudding. The guy went out there and did some incredible things this year with some help, but not a ton of help. And I think the cavalry's on its way, and it'll lead to being a catalyst for this guy having a monster second year.
So the 2 wildest seasons I've covered in this job, 2014 and 2024. I'm just curious, as you were watching this season unfold, the things that were happening on a weekly basis, like were you having flashbacks? Was there any of that going on for you?
I think 2014 was so bad that I've opted out of remembering any of it. The only thing I remember was that was probably my best year of football from a personal standpoint. But outside of that, we didn't win a lot of football games, and I try to forget it. But I think 2024 is one of those seasons as well where you try to forget it. And luckily, there were so many instances of bad football that you can forget some of them.
Yeah.
You were legit the face of the team at that point, though. Like, we went to you. You had to speak for the whole
Well,
organization.
that's because Jay said, hey, I don't want to go to the podium, so you're going to go to the podium, and you'll thank me later for it. And sitting here now with a job in media, I'm like, thank God Jay had the foresight
That's
to be
what it
like,
was.
you're going to be in media. This football thing doesn't last forever.
How nice of him.
Yeah, what a charitable guy. Shout out to Jay Cutler.
Yes, for sure.
I'm just, if you were talking to Caleb about, hey, you're going to be the face of this. I was in a weird situation. That's what I was doing. What would you tell him?
Be yourself. Nobody's youer than you. And just go let your freak flag fly, man, because there's a reason you are where you are. They loved you. They picked you. and we love you as fans. And I just think that you got to circle the wagons mentally and let your freak flag fly. I'll go back to that. Just go be a freak, man. And people, if you build it, they will come. Isn't that what Costner said, or James Earl Jones, or somebody?
Who was the guy who actually said that in the movie?
If you build it, he will come.
They will come.
They will come. Yeah. That's terrible by me.
He will come.
I mean, that's what Costner heard it. I don't know who was whispering it, though. Who was the godlike fixture?
I picture James Earl Jones.
It might have been Ray Liotta.
You know what? Let's just say it was James Earl Jones.
Yeah, I like that, too.
R.I.P. Great man.
To both of those guys, right? Ray's gone, too.
Darth Vader.
Or I just killed him.
Ray's gone.
I think he is.
Is he?
Ray's gone. Ray's gone.
Both of those guys are.
Yeah.
Hey, do you still feel the love from Bears fans all the time? Because I feel like they still just love you.
Everywhere, yeah.
I do. I love you.
Thank you, Braxy. When I got drafted to the Bears, I remember we were sitting in our TV room in Virginia, and I didn't go to the draft. And it was a surprise to get drafted in the first round, and obviously even more of a surprise to be drafted by the Bears. But my dad and my older brother were so jealous because they understood what that goes hand in hand with, is being a part of the best sports city in America, in our opinions, crown jewel franchise. And if you go out there, and like I said about Caleb, you go play hard, you be yourself, and be a freak, people will appreciate that. And then I would also say, if somebody stops you on the street and wants to talk to you, stop and talk to them, because you'll enjoy it just as much as they will. And it's a big part of being a Bear, is being somebody that's accessible to the fans.
Well, when you talk about that, because before we came on, you were talking about how long you've known Adam, covering the team and where he's gone. But from my fan perspective, I was chasing you down at Bourbonnais as a rookie. When you talk about being yourself, I'll give people a moment that I'll never forget at camp. A fan, as you're signing autographs after practice, made a little joke / pot shot at some of the things that you went through in college. And the way you handled it, instead of matching his energy, was one of the most mature things I've ever seen from any player, because you could have decked this guy, honestly, for what he said to you. It was disrespectful. And so for me, in that moment, I didn't care what your playing career looked like after that. You always were going to have a fan of me, because that showed me somebody that actually is self-aware. And so for me as a fan, we appreciate guys that are authentic. And that's something that you always gave to the Chicago Bears fan base.
I appreciate that, Braxton. But what you don't know is we caught up with him 20 miles down the highway. He cut his throat. What was that, Dumb and Dumber? Yeah, they caught him 20 miles down the highway and slit his throat. No,
That's
you know
amazing.
what? Shout out to that guy. I hope he's having a great day.
Yeah.
But, hey, look. There's been more than enough times where I've matched energies with fans,
Sure.
and it never ends well.
I fail at it every day on Bears Twitter.
Yeah, me too. Historically speaking, Ryan Pace used to come to the training room, and I'd be face down on the table with ice on my back and getting my foot worked on, and I'd feel a hand on my back. I'd turn around and be Ryan Pace, and he'd be like, "Hey, buddy, you got to delete that tweet."
Yeah,
you can't say that.
He came up. He flexed on me one time at camp. I walk up. I'm like, "Hey, I'm Greg Braggs." He goes, "Yeah, I know who you are." I was like, "Oh boy."
He's a good reader, Ryan.
He was really aware of what was going
Sorry
on.
about the Taco Bell tweets.
You actually just teed up something that was just interesting, that Forte was here. He's like, yeah, I figured out I had to get my training outside of the facility. Did they not take care of you as well as they could have when you were?
They took care of us. Some people just require a little bit extra. Matt Forte is one of those rare physical specimens where if you go in there and front squat, back squat, bench, run sprints, push sleds, it's just not enough for Matt. I mean, for a guy like me, I'd be able to go get my lift in and I would need a good nap. But Matt, a tireless worker. He wore a cutoff shirt that said workhorse on it. There weren't many people like Matt Forte that I came across in my career.
And I was on that subject when he was sitting down with us. I'm looking at him. I go, "You look exactly the same as you did when you got drafted."
It is unbelievable. It's like they carved him out of stone.
It's amazing. He hasn't aged at all. It's insane.
It is insane.
All right, we got to get to the most important part.
Oh, God. Here we go.
This is what I'm
We'll
saying.
let him have it.
So, look, a lefty combined with a righty in doubles is dangerous.
Yeah.
And so what I'm seeing for us is you get this thing going.
Oh, boy.
I'm in 7,000 leagues. And the only thing I care about, I love this show, and my family and my girlfriend and her kids, all these things are sweet. But really, tennis is it. So I think we can take this. Your size, your impact with the left hand.
I would love to play sometime, dude.
Let's go. But I see us as a dynamic, 4 or 5 level doubles team.
You got to talk to my mom because she's been playing tennis a long time. She's a righty. She's a crafty player. Obviously, I'm a big forehand guy. So if I were to play with my mom, it'd be a great matchup. So Mama, I got a partner, and it's not a co-ed partner, so we're gonna go men's double.
Explains why he's a natural.
Well, you know that
Yes.
he, is going to be a ball boy. You tried out.
I did try out for the U.S. because I can't play at the U.S. Open level, just a little bit below. So I went ball boy.
That's
'cause
awesome.
You want to be out there.
That's
Come on.
a cool job.
Don't you think?
I remember the one clip of the kid who ran out, got the ball, sprinted back to the wall, slammed into the wall.
Right.
Yeah.
Great effort, though. That dude was trying.
Yeah, I mean,
And then
that's
he was
a
like the
commitment.
London guard after
Yeah.
it happened. Like, no.
Kyle, you got to see the videos of him trying out at the U.S. Open. He did it with Nick
for
Wright.
a ball boy.
He did it with
Yes.
Nick Wright. It was
Yes.
hilarious.
I gave it everything
And you
I
didn't
could.
make it.
Well, it wasn't technically a real tryout.
Oh, yeah.
But this year is going to be a real tryout because I'm going to make it.
Shout out to a guy like Nick Wright, who, again, this is another Super Bowl week for him, for all his opinions and premonitions. The
Mr.
guy's
Chiefs.
brilliant.
Ben
brilliant.
Strauss wrote the story on it. I don't know if you guys saw that.
I
He had a
saw
cover story in the Washington Post.
You got behind that
They
paywall?
put his mug on the cover of the
They
Washington
even
Post.
made it all fancy. A real photographer came.
Jeez, shout out to Nick.
yeah. Nick's
It's
rocking.
awesome. Kyle, we love you, man. Thanks for
Thank
stopping
you
by.
guys so much.
Appreciate
We'll see you
it,
soon.
man. Let's go, dude.
You guys are doing stuff with CBS
CBS
Sports
HQ,
HQ all week,
pushing
right?
the pile. Make sure to follow. Check us out on YouTube.
Get the long jersey.